Such a nice thing. I listen to different podcasts all the time when I fly, when I go to sleep, like to zone out and chill. Like it's nice, huh?
I'm the same way, man. It's funny. I don't know if it's like this for you, but these days I listen to more podcasts than I listen to music, which is weird for doing what we do.
You know, like I used to love to dig into an album. I used to love finding music, and like I had like. I really was, when I was very young, I was really into hip hop, like Tupac and NWA, Naughty by Nature, Public Enemy, like this. I was really into it, and I feel like I grew up in Europe, so it was kind of my own. I feel like nobody in Europe had heard about it but me.
Right.
And one of the like side effects, if you want, with working on music every day is like, I don't have time to listen to music that is not something that is work related.
Right.
So when like Kanye or whatever, like someone drops a new album and hey, you heard it? I'm like, I really don't get time and energy to listen to these things if it's not something I can use for work, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I know. I listen more to podcasts.
Yeah, I'm the same. And it's interesting. So this, you just made me think of this. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, because I totally get that thing of like, I just don't have time to listen to more music. I'm listening to so much music for work already. And I think when we listen to music, the DJ brain, you process it sort of differently because you're thinking about, oh, would this work on the dance floor? Should I make an edit of this? How did they make that snare? You know, all that kind of thing. And so let me ask you this. Are you able to be a fan of anything? The conversation I was having with my friend was basically like, I'm trying to get back into just being a pure fan of things and not feeling like I have to analyze it for work, not feeling like I have to get involved with it, but just to be a fan, kind of like I used to be as a kid for a lot of stuff.
Not really. If I have to be honest, I mean, I can really appreciate some producers. I can really be like, wow, they're super talented and I really like what they're doing. But no.
What about like
really.
Outside of music even? Like, you know, a comedian or a movie or a, you know, athlete even.
I mean, I'm really into soccer, and the soccer players I think are amazing, but I don't really get like, I don't get starstruck. I don't feel like I have, like I often got asked, who is your favorite DJ or producer of all time? And I'm like, I kind of have to say somebody, you know, like, but I don't have it like that. I don't know. There's a lot of people I love and I respect, but I'm not like fan. Like, I have someone that I like, wow, I'm really into that, like that. I don't know why.
Do you have any hobbies outside of music?
Yeah, I like to work out a lot. I like to try to live a healthy life. I used to be very into Thai boxing, but it's difficult with the life I have now touring.
Right.
I like that. I like to play poker. It's a nice way to get my mind out of things. And a lot of places I stay, you know, like I play Vegas next weekend, and like there's like a casino. I like to go down and play some poker. It's fun.
Yeah.
But beside that, it's just most music. I'm kind of obsessed with like creating. And I feel like now I finally open a little bit the box of Pandora, and people finally want to hear what I have to create. I'm just obsessed with making more and more and become better and better.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting you say that you know you've just opened this box and finally people want to hear more and more, which is funny because you've been doing this for a long time and you've been releasing records for a long time. I've been aware of your music for a long time. Do you really feel like it's just now, like just recently, that people are really starting to sort of catch on to what you're trying to do?
Yeah, of course. Like recently, like when I teamed up with David Guetta, like the exposure became different.
Of course.
But I would say in my small world, I always felt like, oh, people are listening, you know? And I was like very optimistic and be like, oh, this next song is going to be very big. It's going to do something for my career. This is going to, like, I've always been very optimistic and very like, oh, this is going to be great. But looking back at it, it's like, I would say, maybe sounds hard, but I could maybe just delete not the past, but what I've done the last 2 years is what has made a big impact for me.
Right.
I wouldn't delete the process of getting to where I'm at. I talk to a lot of friends and producers and DJs, producers that are maybe struggling or having a hard time to find out where they're going or what's going on. They're a little bit like lost, and I felt like I was very lost for many years. Like I was like on a very like bouncy route, and I don't know if you know my past, but I grew up in Denmark, and in early age I was very successful in Denmark. I became the first like if you want, like superstar DJ, touring the country, selling out every shows and playing every festival.
Yeah, and you won a bunch of awards as well locally, right?
Yeah, I won every award you could do. I played the King's Wedding. Like I was the guy.
Oh, wait, hold on. What you got to tell me what playing the King's Wedding is like?
Well, he was having like a 7-day celebration of his wedding. He got married to his coming queen, right?
Right.
So he invited me to play at like this. Never had this event where they like to sail these nice boats, and so he was just like inviting me to be a part of that. It was, but what I meant was just more like I was the guy.
No, of course, it's just that. I mean, that's just fascinating. That did you already know him, or were you just that big in Denmark that he was like, well, obviously I'm the king, so I got to get this guy.
No, I didn't know him. So he hired event. Whatever it's called, like someone to do the bookings for him, for everything. The whole country is celebrating his wedding for like a 7-day period, and they reached out to me and like, we need a DJ. So that's you. So
right.
Man, yeah. I would say I was that big that I did that. Right.
That's fascinating, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It's very intense to become like the guy in a small country. So it was very like. I was very busy. I was touring with like, there was a pop group there called Nick and Jay. They were like the biggest like pop artists in the country, and I was touring with them. I was like a DJ who came in the middle of their set, and we had like 2-3 tracks that was like the hardest tracks in the country. So it was a fun time. But after some years, I was like, I've done everything now. I played the biggest venues. I played the biggest festivals. There is nothing left for me to do than do it all over again. So I moved to LA with my manager, thinking now I'm going to take over America. This has got to be easy. I'm a superstar in Denmark. Like it's easy to come here and, like no problem. And I got signed to a British label. I released a record called Look Closer. It was going great. And I got really quick some bookings, and the whole like EDM kind of bubble like was growing, and every European DJ was coming to America and was just having like this massive career. And I kind of missed that train, to be honest.
And this was like, just for people listening to set the scene, this was what, around like maybe 2010, 2011, something like that?
13, 14.
Okay. A couple years later.
Like 10 years ago from now, like 9 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I can't do this EDM. It's difficult. I was trying all these different things. I was trying to do like some pop records that was okay. I made it to like number 8 on New Music Friday in America with like this pop record streaming 10 million. It was nice. Like, but it wasn't really like translating into me getting booked as an artist.
Right.
So I started touring America heavily, but EDM was like on a downfall, and everybody wanted to hear hip hop everywhere. So I kind of had to like change up my sets and start to play a lot of urban and open format in my sets, which is so far from how I grew up and where I came from. And me being like entrepreneur, like me being the guy who introduced electronic music to a commercial scene in Scandinavia or Denmark, at least, it was weird to try to do these things. And at the same time, my career, I was holding my career in Denmark, so I would go back and play these big, massive festivals and sold-out shows in Denmark, and then come to America where nobody knew me. It was every week was like
this. Yeah, that's got to be strange to go from being, basically a celebrity, a pop star, basically, and then coming back to America and kind of just being in the rat race and being just another guy trying to make it.
Yeah, and you know what? In that scenario, you can take it 2 ways. It can be like something that is not good for you, or it can be something where you're like, okay, wow, I need to work. And that's kind of what I did. I was like, because I came from very comfortable life. Like I was making good money, and that was great. I could have stayed in Denmark and I would just work 10 years hard and I would be good. But something needed to change, and I kept visiting America, and I was like, I need to be here. This is my dream to live here, and it's my dream to make it here. So in that way, I kind of didn't give up. And then I was trying to make dubstep. I teamed up with Sullivan King. He's like a dubstep guy here.
I know him.
He makes dubstep, but he infused it with heavy metal.
Right.
So I told him, like, I don't know much about this production, about dubsteps, but I really like it, and I want to be on this wave. Can you help me make these records? And he was like, sure thing, come by my studio. And we did like 3 weeks of intensive settings, studio sessions, sitting together for hours and making these records. And then we made one record that was really cool. I released that was called Hypnotize. But the reason why I mentioned him was that he kept playing me these records with heavy metal that was so unique, and it wasn't really connecting for him. And it was too heavy and too loud, and it wasn't where dubstep were. But he was just like, this is my thing. And he kept releasing these dubstep heavy metal records, and he didn't change the thing. And suddenly he just hit his lane.
Yeah.
And America opened up, and they're like, we love you. And his career went through the roof in a few years. And it was so cool to see, because he was just sticking to what he liked, and he didn't compromise, and he didn't care about nothing. And then it was his time. He was up.
Well, so much of that is timing too, right? Like that's one of those interesting things that you can have the best ideas in the world. You can be the most talented producer, musician in the world. But if you just hit at the wrong time, or if you magically hit at the right time, like there's so much of it that we can't control. So I like what you're saying about consistency, because I think that's a really important lesson. You got to put in the hours, you got to practice, you got to maintain your skills so that when the door opens up, you're ready for it, right?
Yeah. But it was just nice to see him that he didn't try to chase that hit record. He just kept doing his own thing. And it really inspired me, because I was like, I keep being a step behind. I keep releasing music that was hot. I keep listening to what's going on right now. Let me make something that works like that, and I'll be great. But it's not really how it works.
Right.
If you keep making something that's out there already, no one's going to listen to it. It's already done. You need to make something that is leading, and not, you need to inspire and not be inspired. So once I was like, okay, like I'm kind of like completely lost music wise. I just released a record with David Guetta. He's a rapper from New York. I'm making rap music. The record before that, I was making dubstep. Before that, pop. I just sold 10 records I produced for these old EDM DJs that just wanted a record. So I was like, okay, I can do this in the back of my mind. So
Right.
I ghost produce, if you want, these 10 records for different EDM DJs. And I was like, whatever, it just pays the bill, right?
Yep.
But I have no soul in this. I don't like this. This is not me. So I was talking to this guy in Denmark that knew me in Denmark when I was successful of this sound that I was doing. I released an album in 2009 called Drop. That if you hear it, it's like full on Future Rave, the project I'm doing with David Guetta today.
Yeah, I was listening to it earlier today, that Drop album.
Oh, okay. And he kept saying, why don't you do that sound? It's you. That's your identity. You've always been making that kind of music. Why are you moving away from that? And I was like, wow, no one listens to that now. It's too dark. It doesn't work. And he was like, who cares? Make something you love. So I teamed up with a producer from Denmark that knew me for many years. I said, remember that sound I used to have? Like, do you wanna come to LA? Do you want to stay in my apartment, and we'll go buy some weed, and we'll lock ourselves in and make music for 3 weeks? Like, I need help with this because I'm not inspired and I'm like lost. But I know how my sound is. I just need to bounce back and forth. And right away, he's like, wow, I'm so down. Let's go. And he flew in, and we sat for 2-3 weeks, and we did absolutely nothing. That was great. We had a good time, but we didn't really make anything like that. And then 2 weeks after, he sent me this idea. He was like, check this out. And I was like, that's that's kind of what I've been looking for. I don't know what it is, but this is very nice. Can we try this and that? We went a little bit back and forth. And then I played a show in France for like a ski resort. And I played like a easy going set. And I put this record in, and everyone in the audience, they looked around and was like, what is this? And when the drop kicked in, everybody put their hands in the air. And I was like, I haven't had this feeling for 5-6 years. So that was a very cool moment. And I played this record for David Guetta, and later on it became Never Be Alone, a record we did with Aloe Black, and it streamed, I think, like 50 million now on Spotify alone. So that kind of kicked off and gave me like the, what do you call it? It made me brave. It made me trust myself and be like, okay, you got it. Don't be so nervous around it. Just make what you love. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful, man. I talk a lot on this podcast that I think at a certain point, anyone who does what we do, like it's easy to get lost, like you were saying you were for a little bit there. I think that happens to everybody at some point if you stick around long enough. But I think eventually talking to enough people, a lot of people end up going back to what originally inspired them, what originally they were excited about with dance music. And so it makes total sense to me to hear you say that. And I'll even connect it back to the fan conversation we were talking about earlier, because, you know, that first album, you know, that's like the statement of like, I'm so excited to be here. This is, you know, here's what I have to show you. This is why I'm here, kind of thing. So to me, that's almost kind of going back to the original influences you may have had, right? Like what originally got you really stoked about dance music.
Yeah, and also like that album, when we made that in a basement, like with absolutely nothing fancy or nothing that could have, like, we didn't have anything that we have today. You know, we didn't have plugins. We had Zebra. We didn't have what's it called? We didn't have nice speakers. We didn't have nothing, like no nice plugins. We had Zebra 2. That's how we produced the whole album. I had like this kind of analog feel, you know.
Right.
So it was like. It was just good because we made something we liked. And I would say there's a few things that I think is very important. It's like, one is confidence. And that was the word I was looking for before. Because when you are confident, you take more chances and you don't worry too much about what other people think.
Yeah.
You know, and especially like in our work, we have a manager, we have a best friend, we have a girlfriend. Somebody do, but we have an A&R, we have something from the label, we have all these people, and we have the audience telling us what's right or wrong. But in the end of the day, we should just listen to ourselves, and we should be very critical, because I used to send these demos to everybody, Axwell, David Guetta, everybody saying like, hey, check this out, this is my new record, this is amazing, it's going to work so crazy. And I see the same pattern today, and I open my email, I have 100 emails a day from young kids sending me tracks saying, please play this in your radio show. Please do this and that. This is a monster. And I'm listening to it and I'm like, guys, you need to be more critical about yourself. You need to listen. Like you really need to be like, maybe you think this is good because it sounds like something that could be good, but is this really that good? I think a big help is to be very critical to your own productions. And so confident and very critical. And then I think that we need to learn also from the best, you know, like when we see these guys like Deadmau5, Calvin Harris, these legends, Swedish House Mafia, David Guetta, listen and analyze their records. Like, what have they done? Why do they create the emotions they do? Why is it so good? And why do so many people eventually fall in love with their music, you know?
Yeah.
It's very important to learn the chord progression, the emotions that they create.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's an important distinction you're making, because I think studying that music, figuring out why it works, that's a great thing to do. But I think for a lot of newer producers, it's hard to not just start copying the things that they like. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think when you start off, you know, copying someone, I think that's fine when you're just starting. A good way to learn is try to make the music you like. But when you're trying to get out there in an artistic sense to put your best foot forward, especially if you're sending music to DJs, that kind of thing, I think patience is a big part of it too, because I think it's easy to get so excited because just making a good song is a hard thing to do. And so I think for a new producer, it's just exciting to be like, wow, I did it. I made a song and it sounds good. And you want to just send it to everybody right away. But I think if you wait, make 10 more of those, make 50 more of those, and then see how you feel about it and see maybe which out of those is the best one. It's hard to have patience early on, but I think that can pay off in a big way too.
Yeah. It is hard also because we get so excited, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like just to get a reply from a DJ you like is like one of the most amazing things. Like you're like, oh my God, he heard my songs. Like, one of the guys who was really good at listening to my music in the beginning was Axwell. And he would always reply and be like, hey, this is cool, but what about that? And blah, blah. And finally, he replied me and saying, hey, I love this record. Let's do it together. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, let's release it as an actual MORTEN record. I'm going to go look for a vocal. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it, And then I had a collab going on with him for many years, but then Swedish House Mafia happened and they took off. And he texted me saying, hey, MORTEN, I love the record that we're working on, but I'm going to be a little bit busy the next few years. So, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it as myself.
Right.
And that record turned up to be a record called Beautiful Heartbeat. But it was originally a collab with Axwell. And that was such a big deal for me to have a DJ replying me and supporting me. So I have this radio show on One World Radio. I'm really trying to push a lot of new producers there and what they're coming with. It's fun, people coming up and people are trying to get their songs through everywhere. I like the hustle and I like the beginning of this.
Yeah, I agree, man. The energy of that is really exciting. And, you hear a lot now that music just in general is oversaturated. Entertainment in general, you could listen to a million different things. You could watch a million different shows every week. A million more things are released. But I think the positive of that is that we are getting so much of that new energy, and there's so many new people who maybe wouldn't have had a chance to get their stuff out there before. And the fact that you're in a position to give a leg up or to curate that a little bit, I mean, that's fun, man. That keeps it exciting.
Yeah, I think that electronic music is such a super interesting place right now. Everyone talked about the whole EDM scene died and all that. I feel like it has never been more interesting than it is right now. A couple of examples is like the Swedish House Mafia that's collaborating with Fred again. It's just so different and cool. David Guetta, the fourth most streaming artist in the world, releasing an instrumental track with Me, Element, last Friday.
Right.
The list goes on. People are taking chances, creating these things. That electronic music is just, it's hot. You can go to watch techno, whatever you want, everywhere around the world. It's going on right now. And it's really cool times.
I agree, man. I with apologies to anybody who maybe took a financial hit, but I'm kind of glad that the EDM thing blew over a little bit, because I think it kind of had to. I think it was getting a little stale. And I think both from the artist side and from the fan perspective, I think people were a little tired of it. Like it made sense to me that it kind of blew up the way it did, and then kind of had the downslide the way it did.
Yeah, I mean that's why David Guetta and I, we started Future Rave, because we kept having this conversation. Like we were good friends, and I was like, "What are you playing in the weekend?" And he's like, "Bro, I don't know. I can't keep playing this EDM. Right. I mean, I can't. It's the worst. It's terrible. Like, and the DJs, they started to play harder and harder and crazier and crazier and crazier. And then there comes a reaction that goes, towards it. And then house music starts to come with 100 miles per hour, and there's more chill vibe, and like superstars becoming born with making this music that is not big in EDM, like Black Coffee and so on and so on. So it's like this, when the underground becomes so big, it turns into commercial music, and then it changes again. And it's just a nice circle we are in right now. And I love how it is. It's fun.
Yeah, I agree, man. And, mentioning the Future Rave thing, mentioning that the radio show that you're kind of curating a lot as well, the Future Rave brand is also becoming a label, right?
Yeah, we are working on making a label right now. We haven't, to be honest, figured out exactly what we're doing. We just know we want to do a label, and we're listening to a lot of different music. We wanted the culture and like the whole scene to make a change and to have an impact on that. We wanted to create a label and support this culture. We never started Future Rave together to make big records for streaming. We wanted to make music that worked in our set, and we wanted to create a culture, and we wanted to be supportive of like the underground pushing into the main stage, and we wanted a change for EDM and the main stage music, and creating a label. And now we come with a new EP on Friday, and we try to keep pushing the boundaries. I mean, now you kind of heard, those who are into this have heard David Guetta and MORTEN record and know that it can be very, I think, pushing the boundaries. Like when you hear a David Guetta record, you don't expect him to sound like, for example, our record like Permanence or Element we just released. These records that are like definitely not EDM.
Yeah.
2013, 14, where David Guetta released a hit after another. So this is what we wanted. We wanted to make people turn their head and be like, "What is this? Wow, can't believe this is different."
Yeah, I mean, it's cool from Guetta's side. It's cool because to me, it sounds like he's having fun again. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which it sounds like you are as well. But if I think back to that era of just David Guetta hit after hit after hit on pop radio, those are all great records. But to me, that's more of him being like a technician, like an assassin, like he has this sort of just crazy ability to craft these sort of perfect pop dance records. And then when I hear him making records with you and doing this Future Rave sound, I mean, that just to me sounds like a guy who could make a lot of different stuff, just having fun, doing it for the love. And I think that energy kind of comes through the records.
1,000%. And that is like one of the most like the conversations me and David have is that we both found joy in making music. Again, we both found joy on going on stage and playing something where we're like, oh my God, this feels good. Like, wow. And that is different from going on stage because we're playing these festivals every week and it's the crowd is jumping and celebrating and having fun. But when you play something new and fresh or you're playing your own music, it's a different feel. Yeah. And for example, I played a festival in Singapore last week. And I looked at my set list before going on. This was my first time playing in Singapore. And I was like, I'm playing out of the hour and 15 minutes I'm playing like 14 records nobody has ever heard before. And that was not the case a few years ago, Right. We had to play hits and bangers all over. And now it's just like a door is open of like, hey, just listen to the sound. This is hot.
Well, and you were talking about sort of how the trends cycle and how sounds cycle. And to me, that DJ thing you're talking about is a cycle too, because when I came up, and I think when you came up as well, like you would go to see a DJ because they would play a bunch of records you didn't know, and because they had access to cool shit that you didn't have. And so you knew you were going to hear a bunch of new stuff. And then at a certain point, I mean, with that EDM boom we were talking about, I mean, even with, somebody like Guetta who's making these pop records, all of a sudden people are showing up expecting to hear the songs that they know, right? And I think a lot of DJs sort of had to make that mental shift a bit.
Well, it's like, I mean, it depends on how you tour as a DJ. If you tour around America, you tour the world, or wherever you are, the scene is very divided now. But even here in America, I'm playing in Fort Lauderdale here in Miami on Friday, and then I'm playing Las Vegas on Saturday. I'm playing two completely different sets.
Yeah.
And the expectations are completely different because the one who comes here in Miami, They want to hear something fresh. They want to hear me do something like, what is that? But the one that comes to Las Vegas, they're like, we don't care about this. We just want to celebrate, put our hands in the air and dance to songs we love and sing the songs. So I would say Vegas is more like a DJing kind of vibe, and the other shows around America for me is more like bringing artistic form and presenting music, which both things can be fun, and I like to do different things, but it's definitely different from when we started DJing. You're right, because back then nobody wanted to hear hits. They all just wanted to hear electronic music. Normal regular people didn't go to Beatport. So if you played an electronic show, you went to Beatport and downloaded top 10 records. They were all just standing and be like, wow, this is amazing. What is this? Yeah.
Well, and you started DJing pretty young, right?
Yeah, I was 13 and I'm 40 now. So that's like 27 years ago I started.
You know what's funny, man? This is a very random thing, but on the internet told me that your birthday is May 26, 1982. Is that right?
Is that your birthday?
My birthday is May 25th, 1982. So I'm
wow.
one day older than you, young man.
Wow. That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, okay.
But,
well, I can tell you that the king in Denmark is the same birthday as you.
Oh, is that
he's
right?
the 26th as me. And since you're behind in the time zone, then it might be the same birthday.
Yeah, we're probably all right in the same few hours, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I started. There was this youth club where I grew up, and you could go at night. You could be a part of different like things. You could learn how to take photographs. You could learn how to play volleyball, or you could be at a DJ course. There was this guy. He used to live in New York, and he knew how to play the records, the 1210s, the Technics.
Yep.
And so he brought his DJ booth and this, and then you could learn how to be a DJ. And I started that class. And I was obsessed. It was like the coolest thing I ever tried. And I was obsessed with having people hearing me DJ. It was like I was dreaming about it 24/7. It was like I couldn't breathe. And I told my mom, I have to get this DJ booth, please, please, please. And I kept begging her. And finally I got a DJ booth. And for 5 years, I would be DJing 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 hours in my room every day. That's all I did.
What kind of music? Like what was, because I have to assume if you got into it that quickly, that much, you must have been a fan of music already. So like what was turning you on about it? Yeah.
We would play JD Plastic Dreams, but I would also play like Prodigy song or Tupac California Love.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Technotronic, Pump Up the Jam.
Oh, yeah.
We were all over the place. It wasn't so genre based that you could only play one genre. It was just like, this record is hot, I'm playing it. We were all over the place. And I would go to the vinyl store every Monday and look for new vinyls, stand there, listen to them, and like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool. It feels like it's a different life, but definitely a healthy way of growing and learning about music and DJing to go through that path. It's very different than how people start to DJ today. And today we travel with a USB stick.
That's right. Well, I don't miss traveling with the vinyl bag, man. That wasn't that great.
No, that was brutal. But yeah, I mean, a long journey, and now we are here. And
well, I'm curious, like the Denmark thing, getting famous there, because you were DJing from a young age. When did you get into the clubs? Like, when did people really start noticing what you were doing?
So I was back then you didn't have fast internet in your house. So if you wanted to go and gamble, not gamble, if you wanted to go play like a computer game, you would go to like an internet cafe.
Yeah.
So I was at this internet cafe and I was playing Counter-Strike with this guy, this Asian guy. He was a promoter in the city where I lived. And he told me like, on Friday, I'm missing a DJ. I need a DJ. I'm a DJ. And he said, you're a DJ? I'm like, yeah, I'm a DJ. Okay, can you make me a mixtape? I'm like, okay. I'll record it on a mini disc. And he was, okay, great. And I recorded this mini disc and I gave it to him. And the day after he called me and said, I need a DJ for tomorrow night, a Friday night. Can you come? And I was like 17 years old. I asked my mom, can I please go play at this club? And she was like, absolutely not. You're not going to no club. You're not DJing anywhere. But I told her, like, I talked her into it. And I went to this club and this club was completely empty. And he came up to me and he said, are you ready? I said, what do you mean? Are you ready to play? And I had like 12 CDs because the club didn't have turntables. So I just had like 12 CDs, and it was like compilation CDs of like, now that's called music, whatever they're called. And I had like a few CDs where I downloaded music from Napster, whatever it was called. And then apparently there was like a high school party going on, and 2,000 kids would come in the door within the 15 minutes.
Nice.
So that's why he's like, are you ready? And I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then the club got slammed within 15 minutes, and I was just like, okay, play. And I was playing for a few hours, and it went well. And then I started to play regularly at this club. And then there was this DJ in Denmark called Rune Arke. He did this track, Calabria. Bum, bum,
oh yeah,
bum,
huge
bum,
track.
Bum, 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 bum. Huge track. So he was going to perform, and I was opening for him. And he came a little early, and he heard me open. He was like, "This is cool. Maybe you play back to back with me for a little bit." And I was like, "Okay, let's do that." And while we were playing, the whole club was very energized. They were yelling like, turn it up, something like that in Danish, right? And then on the Monday, he called me. He said like, hey, we should do a track together where we use this like turn it up sample. And that like what the crowd is singing, maybe you can say it in a microphone or something. And I was like, okay. So we made this track, and we started playing it in our sets, and it kind of leaked in a way on YouTube or MySpace or whatever it was. And then it became like the song in the country that every kid just had to hear. Like it was like you would hear it play everywhere, and everybody was screaming it wherever we went. And then this pop duo kind of picked me up and said, "Can we do some tracks together? Like, can you tour with us?" And I was very excited. I started to do that. And then I launched my album, which sold 3,500 physical units the first day I put it for sale, which is a big thing in a small country like Denmark. Yeah. And I was off. Man. And then I toured there for many years.
Was it even a thought to do that, to become, a professional, quote unquote? Or did it just kind of like you were just doing it because you loved it, and this just all started happening? Like, was there a plan in your mind for that to happen?
No. I didn't have any plan with this. It was just more like exciting, all of it. I had a friend who's now my manager. He's very smart with stuff like this. So he was like good at positioning me in Denmark he put me with like good people. He introduced me to this girl who was like a famous singer, and we became a couple, and that gave me a lot of exposure. He was very smart with this. I didn't know what was going on. I was just kind of following around like, okay, do this, do that.
Right.
But as I was growing as an artist, I learned like the worth I had and what I could do. And I understood later on that I had a cultural impact in the country, because I was not just playing these clubs where it was like, okay, this is a cool thing. I was becoming like a family DJ for the whole country, but also I had a certain credibility. So for example, there was a festival like 6 years ago where Depeche Mode were playing, and this is like 50,000 people playing, going to this festival, and on main stage there's like 55,000 people. And the promoter told us like, we want Morten to close after Depeche Mode, but you guys need to know this is a challenge, because Depeche Mode is a huge act here in Europe, and there's a big chance that we will lose a lot of people when Morten go on after, because Depeche Mode are who they are, and maybe it's not exactly the same audience. And we were like, okay, we'll try this, but we knew it could be challenging. And I went on after Depeche Mode and played like 1.5 hours after them, and it was just as packed, and there was just as many people after. So there was we did these things that was challenging, and they're like they were big for us in Denmark. It's a small country, so when you do these things, you sell out places in Denmark. It has a big impact. And small countries, they really like when they have and someone from their country who starts to make a noise internationally. It makes a big impact in your home country. I'm sure like guys like Kygo from Norway is like massive in Norway because they do so well outside. And how Avicii would sell out 3 stadiums in a row in Sweden because he's like Avicii.
Oh yeah, or you look at like what DJ Snake does in Paris now, all that.
So when you get internationally known, that your home country is always very like, oh wow.
So how old were you kind of when you were at the height of fame in Denmark? Is this like 18, 19?
No, like 25, 26.
Okay, a little later.
Yeah, 25, 26, yeah. From 20 to 25, I was growing a lot. I was growing as an artist there. We didn't move as fast back then because we didn't have social media. So today you can get famous overnight, right? Like, but back then it needed to move a little. It didn't go that fast.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And it makes me wonder too, having that experience of celebrity in your home country, it's still at a pretty young age. 25 is still pretty young. Did it teach you anything about the fame side of it? About because I think when you're just starting off, it's easy to be like, I want to be the biggest name. I want to be the most famous. I want to be on every stage, on every station, that kind of thing. And I think when you get there, it's not always what you thought it was going to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? Did it give you any kind of perspective when you moved to the US?
It's fun you ask me this because it puts a lot of like thoughts to my mind. First of all, I grew up in a small city and my family is very loving and very grounded. So the whole when you use the word celebrity, I'm a little bit like, oh, I was not a celebrity, but I guess I was a celebrity because the whole country knew my name and it was like. I never saw it as something that is like, oh, I just took it like I would still ride the bicycle. You know what I mean? Like it was cool. But looking back at it, for example, there was this award show where I won like 9 awards. It was insane. I was every awards. It was like the best remix, the best artist, the best this, the best performance, the best whatever it was. I won every awards. And I just had like this new girlfriend that was like a celebrity. And I was sitting on stage and this hip hop artist, he walked by me and he took a joint and he pushed the joint in my mouth. And not that I was fighting him, but I was just more like, oh, okay, I'm not going to smoke a joint on stage. Right. It's a little bit aggressive, but still I had the joint in my mouth and I was like maybe taking a hit of it or whatever, right? At this time I was smoking weed.
Right.
And then the day after I wake up and the biggest like tabloid magazine like The Sun in like UK, they call me and they say, we have a picture with you and a joint in the mouth on stage. So we want to publish this picture unless you take your new celebrity girlfriend and go for her to walk around the lake in Copenhagen. And we will show nice pictures of you guys having a good time.
Oh, that's crazy. They like tried to blackmail you with it.
Yeah. So I'm like, fuck. And I was so afraid, like imagine if this picture came on front page with me smoking weed and what will my family think and the fans and oh my God, I remember this was like the most traumatic time in my life. And I called my girlfriend. I was like, I'm so sorry this happened. Can we go for this walk? And she was like, oh my God. So we had to go for a walk and then they could publish this like, hey, this girl found a DJ and they're like they love each other and all this shit,
Oh man.
But the reason why I mention is that it's because like now I'm so much older and experienced. If today there was like a picture of me smoking a joint or whatever on front page, I would be laughing. I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is so hilarious!"
Well, it shows you how much the times have changed too, right? Like I feel like the more shocking headline now would be like DJ doesn't smoke weed.
Yeah. Maybe you're right about that. Weed was more like a controversial thing, like these 15 years ago, but it was just more like how I was like so like not confident back then because today I know who I am as a human. So even though when they write something with me, like when they go for me in like the media in Denmark, I'm just more like whatever. You guys don't even you don't understand.
When you started and you were starting, from like age 20 to 25, when you were kind of building it there, what did the music you were making sound like? Did it sound like, early versions of
Future Rave.
that Drop album would be?
Yeah, it sounded like that. It had like that, like that analog cold lead sound and those like Scandinavian, like kind of dark melodies. And I would combine that with using pop artists, very warm vocal and that. It sounded very much like what me and David are doing today, I would say, very much.
I mean, it's interesting to me to bring it back to the Future Rave thing, just the name Future Rave, and to bring it back to that idea of like cyclical sounds and ideas. it seems like a lot of the Future Rave thing is looking to the past as well and getting inspired by, older styles of music, things that maybe people had stopped paying attention to, early loves in music. I think that's kind of always a way to push things forward. I think when a lot of people talk about like innovation in music and coming up with new ideas, they think it has to be this sort of just like virgin idea that's never been thought of before. And I think to me, that's always kind of a weird thing, because I think kind of everything's been thought of at this point, but it's sort of how do we take what's already been done and put a new spin on it, right? Or how do we find something that people have forgotten about and bring it into the present in an interesting way? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it is very interesting now, because I don't think we have ever had like an age of music where we have so much sampling and so much reusing of music. Like the biggest dance hit of the year is a craze with Doing It, and I Do It, or what's it called?
Do It to It, yeah.
Yeah, Do It to It. And like everything is the sampling over and over and over and over again. And I agree with you. I don't think that the best music in the world have been made, so we can't come up with new music. I don't think that. But there's also like this, like we have these emotions, and when we create an emotion, and it's like if we heard the emotion before, it creates something. So to be inspired of what I've done before, I think it's super healthy. And in the end of the day, I just think like we started the conversation, you should just do something that you like. It doesn't really matter if it's done before, if it's not, or whatever. Like we can use so much energy, listen to other people's tracks and be like, why did they do that? I don't like that, or whatever. Just focus on what you like, make something you love. And there's for sure an audience for that as well. Just continue being better and better at your craft and have fun with it. Like,
yeah,
it happens a lot of times when people do something they love, they become very good at it. The odds are very good, very high for that.
Absolutely. And I think the closer you get to what you love, the more it sounds like you, and I think that's people latch on to that if they can tell that it's really coming from an authentic place. Like one thing I think both you and David Guetta are very good at is kind of taking inspiration from the underground, from these sounds, and then bringing them to bigger stages. Maybe, I don't know if I want to say in a more commercial way, but kind of just in a way that more people connect with the music. And I wanted to ask you, whatever this means to you from either like a philosophical standpoint or even like a production standpoint, how do you approach that? Taking inspiration from underground sounds, making it bigger, making it so a lot of people can understand where you're coming from without kind of making it corny or without watering it down, that kind of thing. Because I think that it's a hard line to walk.
It's a very good question. So there's no doubt that in the world, the music that sells is often, like, now you use the word corny, but it's like the average, the easy, tacky melody, these emotions. Right. This is what sells, This is why this is pop music, right? And David Guetta, he came from a background of making and listening to like underground techno. Growing up with this, he was like the king of the nightlife in Paris. He was running nightclubs and strip clubs or whatever, and he was playing vinyls. And his roots are listening to this edgy music that is definitely not commercial. He also then developed this like way of creating dance music with a lot of emotions. And to me, David is probably one of the best A&Rs in the world. He is almost always right about a song, and his feedback is almost always like, wow. And this is not just for me, it's like for everyone that I know who work with him and people in the business. He's an incredible A&R, and he's an incredible songwriter. And I asked David many times, like, why do you have so good top lines?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get your top lines? Do you have a good A&R? Do you like, and he's like, no, we are a few DJs that actually go into a session with the songwriter and rewrite the song with the songwriter. And I make the song what I want.
Right.
And a lot of times these songs are written, the words, I'm a big part of it. And I'm like, wow, I have to learn this because it's very difficult for me to write a song. English is my second language. I'm like, I'm not good with words. This is very difficult. But if I want to have a chance of getting vocals that are near what David has, I need to learn songwriting. I need to understand this. And then David is super good with his progression, chord progression. He's very warm. He's like, you can almost always hear David Guetta record before you know it's him. It's like, oh wow, this is David Guetta, you know? So him coming from this background of this underground sound, which is like what I really represented and what I made when I was having my musical education in Denmark, and that drop album we talked about. This is kind of like a lot what David started listening to, and I don't know if you remember, he came up with the Egg, you know, like electronic record back then.
Yeah.
So me and him being a lot aligned about what we like about electronic music and this sound, but also having him add like the progressions and going in studios, writing this vocal with these artists like Ray. We have two big tracks with her, like beautiful big vocals. So the balance between not getting too corny, as you say, is that both of us like this underground sound, and we like the big build up and this techno feel, and David adding like his experience and how good he is with the songwriting and chords is a product of Future Rave, and I guess my job is to like, you know, bring in like this more cold environment and more like dark techno or whatever I'm doing.
Right. Yeah, that makes, I mean, yeah, balancing each other out, I think is a really good lesson for anybody out there looking to collaborate with people, is sort of find people who can balance what you do, and find people who maybe are good at what you're not good at, or something where you feel like you could augment something they're doing. The Future Rave thing is interesting too, because I think it's so cool to watch you guys kind of commit to it. You know what I mean? Because I think there's a lot of times when two big artists will come together and make a song, or maybe even an EP, they'll do some dates together, something like that, and then they just kind of move on and go back to what they're doing. What's fun for me to watch what you guys are doing is to see that this seems to be like a long-term project. You know what I mean? Like, that makes me more invested in it from a listener perspective.
Yeah, I got to give a lot of credits for David for that, because I mean, I'm collaborating with him, and that's of course where I'm coming from. Is such a big deal for me. But him to keep being invested in it and loving it with me is of course it's amazing, you know. But he seems to be having a lot of fun, and you know, we're doing a residency in Ibiza in the summer at High. That's called Future Rave, where like if you come to some of these parties, or you see on YouTube, you can see our set from Brooklyn Mirage. I think most people would watch it and be like, wow, I didn't know that these guys would play this kind of music. This is very interesting. You know, this is very different. And it's a playground, and it's fun. And I think me and David will continue to work Future Rave like we do like now until it's fun. The second it's not fun, okay, we need to do something else.
It's a time and place for everything, right? Like we were talking about that earlier, that there's cycles to everything. Trends come and go, and sounds have a peak and a fall and all that. But it's fun to watch you guys doing it, man, while it is fun. Cool. And, you know, just the energy of it. Like, I think kind of for anybody who does what we do, anybody should be able to relate to that feeling of like, finally, I found the thing I'm excited about. I'm having fun doing it. Like, at the end of the day, that's what all of this is about, right? Like, what's the point? You know, touring and making money and all that is great, but unless you're really enjoying it on that kind of primal level, that like kid level, I don't know, man. The older I get, I'm like, what's the point of it unless we're really having fun?
I don't know. We can all just talk from our own perspective. But the career I had in Denmark, I think it's pretty obviously. If I wanted to milk that and make some money, I would have gone back to Denmark many years ago and done things there. I always wanted to tour the world. I always wanted to have a musical print on the world, and I always wanted to make a change. Now we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So it's
man.
good.
I wanted to ask you, just because this is a thing that I think maybe you can speak to. You were talking about the Ibiza residency, and just for a lot of people listening who maybe don't know exactly what that entails, like what is, just in your experience, whatever this means to you, whatever memories it makes you think of, like what's a summer on Ibiza like when you have a residency there? Because I think Ibiza, people talk about Ibiza all the time, but especially in the States, like not that many people make it over there. Like what is your experience of Ibiza?
Well, I get it. You know what? I think it's so important for people that works with electronic music, DJs, producers, manager, whatever, that they once a year come to Ibiza and they feel the energy from the island. I feel like Ibiza always grows these roots of where the music is going. And I've been seeing this for the last 25 years, as long as I can remember. I used to listen to Radio 1 DJ shows from Ibiza 20 years ago.
Yep.
You hear the music there, you feel what's going on, and then you feel it in the rest of the world 2 years after. So when you come to Ibiza, you just feel this energy, like the taxi driver, the old lady in the supermarket. Everybody is listening to electronic music. And it really gives you like a feeling of like, oh my God, I landed on this island. And this island is not just a party island. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. The water is blue, warm. People are super nice, friendly. It's very hippie. It's amazing. And you can go out every day and hear the hottest DJs in the world. And the clubs are sick.
Of course.
So to have a residency there, for me, it's been very stressful, to be honest, because I play in the summer in Europe. The summer I was playing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shows a week.
Right.
So a lot of times I would play a show and I would fly in the same Friday. I would play Tomorrowland and I would fly into Ibiza and play the show with Guetta at night. So, and then I would get on the next flight out of Ibiza to play a festival or 2 festivals Saturday. So it's been very hectic for me coming in and out, but I've been coming in Ibiza for so many years now. I know the island and I can only tell people like, try to see if you can make it out to Ibiza. I know it's a little bit of an expensive, exclusive island, but I think if you can afford it and you can find time for it, it's very inspiring, and you would see like people really come for electronic music, and it's amazing.
It's kind of living history, right? In a way, like you just made me realize that, because we talk about sort of the roots of dance music, and we talk about in the States there's like the birth of house in Chicago and techno in Detroit, but we can't go back there now, right? But Ibiza, it's still going. Like I had Paul Oakenfold on this show, and I was talking to him about, going out there for the first time, basically, like the very beginnings of Ibiza becoming what it is now. And then, you can still go there and you can still see, like, it's still that pure kind of place. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think that's very rare for a culture to have like a what's the word? Like a flagpole that's still there. Like somebody planted it, 40 years ago, and it's still going, and it's in such a self-contained environment. It's really interesting, man.
Yeah, and it's nice there. You don't see any police. You never see a fight. It's just like, what is this place? Like, it's just like, yeah. and it's so beautiful, and there's so much to do. Like there's it's like the balance there is just nice. There's so many healthy options, so many gyms, and people do yoga on the beach and everywhere, and it's just nice. Like Ibiza is like nice. You can party 24 hours a day, and like it's beautiful. It's cool. I mean, I should be working for Ibiza the way I promote it here.
Yeah, you're a tour guide at this point.
But it's very inspiring to go there. It's like the music is very inspiring, and it's funny because you can really feel how music is developing and growing from there. This year, I didn't hear one single like EDM song. Like it's just like it's gone. You can't hear it. I didn't hear one single like dubstep song, just like bass house. Like it's just like the sound was just very like, this is where we're going. This is what's happening. And all the acts was like kind of on this vibe, loving it. And not that there's something wrong with EDM, earlier EDM or big EDM melodies or dubstep or whatever. But it's just like, it's just very like European electronic dance driven there. Like it's like, like house music, tech house, like techno, like Future Rave. Like it's just this works really, and Future Rave is a lot like a hybrid there. Like it's like it's the hardest it can go.
Again, that's another way to keep it exciting too, right? Is to be in that energy and to be reminded that so many people are doing it at the same time, and there's such a demand for it. And it's like going back to the source a little bit. I mean, that's great.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah,
you should make it over there. And if you do, you let me know. You come with me.
Yeah. Oh, let's do it, man. That'd be great. Well, I've got a few questions to kind of start wrapping it up. But before I do, is there anything else you want to say about Future Rave? Anything else you want to say about what you're working on, what you got coming up? Obviously, by the time people hear this, the full EP is going to be out, so people can go and get that, and we'll tell them where to go. Anything else you're working on? Anything else you're stoked about that you want to get out there?
Yeah, we're working on a lot of things. I have projects. I'm still working on other tracks with David, and I have some solo things coming out. I just have a lot of music I'm working on. I'm just excited in general. I appreciate you for having me here. Thank you very much.
Oh, dude, yeah, my pleasure.
It's very nice to be here and very nice to talk to you.
Yeah, this is great. And I've got these are just kind of just quick little questions. You can give short answers, long answers, whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. Just little questions, very open ended. First one: what gives you energy?
The crowd, the audience. Imagine them being on stage, feeling the energy from the crowd. This is like ignites me. I'm preparing a set, so I'm making music. I'm just like imagining the crowd, and that gives me huge energy. If you mean like an everyday basic, gives me energy to work out and train. I like that.
That's a good answer. What is the hardest you've worked?
Oh, this summer I toured like an animal. I slept 2-3 hours a day, and I played, 150 shows. That was really, really hard work.
Yeah. Do you enjoy that? Or do you obviously everyone gets tired, but do you enjoy that pace of life? I
do. I'm a workaholic. I'm not built for vacations and the beach. I like to work.
That's funny. Where do you think that comes from? Have you always been that way?
No, that's my dad for sure. My dad's the same. My dad was always working. I didn't see him much growing up. He was working. So that's for sure a DNA I have from him.
What did he do, out of curiosity?
He was a consultant. He was consulting in like against countries against corruption and stuff like that. So he worked in Africa and Bangladesh and Russia for many years.
Oh, wow. That's super interesting.
Very interesting, actually.
Yeah, no. Did you get to travel with him at all, or did he at least have some stories about
it? I would visit him in countries that was like, where it was kid friendly. I visited him in Turkey and Russia and Moldova. I visited him in America. He did some work here. Not that America had corruption, but he worked in like different fields.
Man, fascinating. That's super valuable for a kid too, just to have those experiences, I think, even if you don't really know what they mean at the time,
Yeah, true.
Okay, next one. What makes work fun?
Seeing the end result is amazing. Being on stage and playing music is like to see people just like, my job is to entertain people. I'm an entertainer. And when people come out and hear me perform, hear my songs, whatever, I have them for that 1-2 hour, and they have a busy day. They have problems in the day. They have things they struggle with. I get them for 1-2 hours, and I have the possibility to make them forget about their life and just throw their hands in the air and celebrate life and the music that we are listening to. And this is like, that's what I do. And this I love. I give this to people. Like,
it's beautiful, man. And I relate to what you're saying. It's a really, really nice feeling. Was there anyone earlier in your life that gave that feeling to you? Doesn't even have to be a musician necessarily, but just some experience you had where you felt that way.
No, I wish I could say so. I at an early age, I always thought I was going to be a police officer because I thought it was very interesting with the blue light and the gun.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's also important to understand what is that we're doing, because like when we have fans screaming and autograph and all this, I think it's very important to put your feet on the ground and be like, okay, relax, like, buddy. It's not because you saved the world here. Like, they just enjoy your music. You know, don't get caught up in this. Like, appreciate it and make everybody happy.
Yeah. Well, that's a good answer too, right? Is just staying grounded and staying balanced and not getting lost in it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, next question. What holds you back?
What holds me back? Oh, that's a good question. Probably patience. I mean, we always talk about it's important to be patient, and I feel like I'm very patient. But it kind of also hold me back because I could be a little bit more like, okay, I don't want to wait. Let's just do this. You know, like. But I guess you gotta have patience. But I think patience sometimes can work against me. And if I was a little bit more impatient, I think I could have like a bigger like.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I think there's a difference too between being patient. I think patience is a good quality, but then also, because I have this issue sometimes I feel like I'm not always the best advocate for myself, you know, because I always have a negative reaction to people who just want to like get in your face and tell you everything about themselves and what they're doing and why you should care about them. So I never want to be that person. Like I like to just, you know, lay back and do what I do and let that speak for itself. But I think you're right that in this industry, advocating for yourself can be effective, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, next one. When does it feel like work?
When there's like an email from like a PR or somebody, manager asking, hey, can you answer these questions and do these things? Then it's like, that's work.
Right.
That's work. Especially around the release and you've done it like 20 of them a day. Or like a week, then it's like, okay, one more.
Yeah, exactly, man.
That's work.
What keeps you going on the flip side?
That's making people happy, 100%. Like, I know it sounds cliche, but that is what keeps me going. It's fun. I like to see people be happy. I like to expand my music and me as an artist and travel the world and spread the music that I love.
That's a good answer, man. And I think too, if you're the person who has trouble going on vacation or trouble relaxing, sometimes I think you can get that vicariously by giving somebody else a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is probably the most open-ended one. You can answer any way you want. What do you need?
I need good people around me. I feed a lot from people's energy. I like to be in a room with people that inspires me. And that goes with producers I work with, songwriters, and like David Guetta. Me and him, we couldn't do what we do together if we didn't have like the friendship we have. I feed a lot from people energy. I need good energy. I need good people around me. That's a great answer. And I think good for anyone listening to this or watching this who is thinking about getting into this business. That's maybe the most important lesson you could take out of this, I think. Okay, I know you've told this story a million times, but just the Guetta thing, I saw an early interview with you from like 10 years ago, maybe more, where you were talking about how you were inspired by David Guetta. Was it an odd thing to go from being kind of like a fan to a peer with somebody like that? I mean, I for sure in the beginning, when I started to talk to David and work with him, I was very... not starstruck, but I was very like, first of all, I was very impressed by his work morals. This guy, he works more than anyone I know, and he would be all over the place. And I would sit next to him and talk, and his phone would ringing, and it would be Cristiano Ronaldo or like, crazy. Like, so of course I was like, wow, this guy's nuts, and this is crazy. But then we became really good friends, and now we are so close friends that like problem we have in our everyday life, like I can call him and be like, hey man, you know, like this happens, fucked up. And he's like, oh, okay, don't worry, we do this and whatever. It's not only music we talk about. So the dynamic has changed for us to just be good friends.
I'm glad you brought up his like early days in France, because that to me, I would love to talk to him about those days sometimes. I think people don't really know his history, you know?
And he's so smart, you know, like sometimes he's like, he tells me these things, like we went skiing in Aspen and we were like talking about something. And then he was like, you know why it's called house music? I mean, it came from Chicago. Yeah, but why? I'm like, and then he started this whole thing like, well, it's because it was this warehouse and knuckles. And he just kept going for like an hour. I'm like, how do you know all this? And he's so smart with this. Like he knows the history and about like, yeah, he's really, really into where everything came from.
Yeah, I love that, man. All right, getting towards the end here. This is kind of a two-part question. What do you want to leave behind? And then I usually tack on, do you care of what you leave behind? Do you care about the idea of a legacy?
Well, I would love for people to meet me in 10 years and be like, yo, what you guys did like with Future Rave 10 years ago, this was so hot, man. I've been listening to it for so many years. And this is like, was like a footprint of a part of my life. Like, you know, like I would like to leave that behind to make an imprint in people's life and memories from festivals and clubs where they've been listening to the music that we love.
I think that's a great answer. I think that's kind of like, you know, you're just one point. If we think of dance music as like a river with a bunch of different branches, all that, you know, maybe the Future Rave thing, it's just one point people can point to, and then they say, oh, from there, all these other things happened. Like, I think that's a cool way to think about it, rather than being like, people have to remember me and what I did. It's more about, no, like I was part of this movement that, you know, meant something. Okay, well, this is the final question. Again, very open-ended. Just looking for a memory from your life, a moment from your life. It could be from any time, could be from when you were a kid or yesterday, anytime, when in that moment, in that memory, music really had a deep impact on you, really hit you hard in that moment. And that could mean something like it gave you goosebumps, or it made you cry, or you heard the right song when you were in a good mood, and it's just a nice memory you think about sometimes. Kind of no wrong answer.
Well, I have a lot of memories as a childhood. You know, my dad, he used to play all the instruments in the world. And I would play flute with him. He would play the piano. I would play drums in a band. I have a lot of musical, like, emotions and memories as a kid. Some of the biggest moments for me is like growing up and becoming a DJ and coming on stage and presenting the music that I've been a part of making. I was 13 years ago, I was at Tomorrowland, and I was standing in the crowd, and we made a video of me standing there looking at the stage. And I was like, I'm going to be there one day, blah, blah. And this year I played the main stage of Tomorrowland, and we're shooting a documentary where we have like a sequence where you see me in the crowd and looking at the stage and being like, I'm going to be there. And then we're like moving from that into me being on stage. That is like a memory for me, like to be on stage at Tomorrowland. That was like, wow, that was a dream to be there. So very cool to experience that.
That's great, man. And do you think, you know, moments like that, like when that happens, say, and you're on stage at Tomorrowland, were you able to sort of be there? Were you able to be present while it was happening?
And there was one thing that I was talking to my tour manager walking on stage. I was like, let's enjoy this. Like, let's suck it in and then be like, let's enjoy this moment. This is important. This is something that we can't take for granted. And be in front of these tens of thousands of people. Like they traveled from all over the world to come and be here. Let's give them the best time of their life.
I love that, man. I think you've got, you know, a good head on your shoulders for all of this, because I think especially as things get bigger, you're playing the main stage of a giant festival. It's easy to get caught up in the pace of everything and to not, you know, always be thinking 5 steps ahead. Like, after this, I got to go get on the plane. I got to go play the next show, that kind of thing. But I think really, when I think about my career, when I think about what I appreciate about other people's careers, it's not really how much stuff I did. It's, you know, it's those memories of like when I was just there in the moment, appreciating it. That's beautiful, man. I love that.
Yeah. Really, I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you having here with me.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Dude, thank you so much.
And thank you for being so nice and friendly and so well prepared. It was very nice to talk to you. I drank a lot of water before, and I just drank this, so I really got to run it. And use the
dude, I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you. But yeah, this has been great, man. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and hope to see you out there somewhere, man.
Thank you. I can't wait to re-listen this, and for the people who listen, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you.
All
very
right,
much.
man. I appreciate you right back. Have a good one, dude. I'll talk to you later.
You too.
All right.
Thank you, Willy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.